Hello everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Christiaan's Rhythm Workout, a series in which we go song by song and I teach you the chords that I use. I teach you some nice possibilities that you might not have thought of, and then there's a possibility for you to practice that with a backing track with only bass, but I'll explain that after this intro. In last week's episode, we were looking at All of Me, and if you haven't seen that episode, go check it out. Also, some really good stuff in that episode. And I explained in that episode that it is not the point of this series to teach you how to play rhythm, the mechanics of it, because I already made several videos about it, which I will link in the comments. The first comment will have 2 links to those videos. So if you're new to Gypsy Jazz Rhythm, be sure to watch those. I'm just going song by song to teach you all the standards, so when we're done with this series in a couple of 100 of episodes, you can play all the songs. This week I chose for Coquette. That's because I think after All of Me, that's the song you'll probably most encounter during jam sessions. Now, Coquette has a really easy progression, mostly 2/5s, but there is several ways to play 2/5. So what I did is I just put a different way of playing a 2/5 in every 8 parts so that you can practice different ways, which you can also combine in different ways to create an infinite amount of different ways to play a 2/5-1. So let's just take a look at the first 8 bars. By the way, you can download this chart with all the chord diagrams from my Patreon. They're downloadable for the $5 level and up, the $5 tier. And then if you want access to the backing track with only the bass that you hear me play with in this episode, of course it's not going to be very loud because the microphone is very high compared to my little speaker that produces the bass, then you need to join the $10 tier and you will have access to, of course, this week's backing track and also last week's backing track. Here we go. So the first chord is D6-9, which I play like this, just like the first chord of All of Me, just 2 frets higher. So 5, 5, 4, 4, 5, 5. Now, as always, I focus on the lowest strings, the lowest 4 strings. I don't really care about the highest 2 strings. Then we get our first 2/5, E minor 7, which I play like this, with the 9, right? So the A string is muted. I like this chord with the 9 in 2/5s. If it was just like an E minor without an A7 behind, I would probably play it like this. But now like this. To my favorite voicing for A7. I talked about that in last week's episode as well, with the 2/3. Which might seem strange at first, but because my rhythm style is very short and I like focus on the low strings, I like this voicing. So the first 4 bars are as follows. 1, 2, 3, 4. Next 4 bars, again E minor 7, A7. Let's use the same voicings. To D6-9. And then we have a turnaround. And for a turnaround there's many things you could do. You could just play A7, you could play the same again, E minor A7, you could play B flat 7, A7, but I really like to play G6 without the bass, so just the middle strings. Right, 5, 5, 4, 5, 5, 4, 5, A7. So you get G6, A7. Now G6 without the bass are basically the same notes as E minor 7, so I'm also playing E minor 7, A7. So the first 8 bars, 1, 2, 3, 4. We go to the next 8 bars. First 4 bars I chose the exact same voicing, so D6-9, E minor 7, A7. And now I went to another way to play a 2/5-1. It is really an old-fashioned Django style to play a 2/5-1. Let's, instead of playing E minor 7, A7, we're gonna play G6, G sharp 6, A6, A7. So we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's very Django-like. It's a really old-fashioned way to play a 2/5-1. Might not be the wisest thing to do in a bebop tune, but for these old swing tunes, it's a really great sound. So the second A is gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go to the bridge. Now in the bridge you could play D7 2 bars to G, or you could play a 2-5-1, that's what I did here. A minor 7, D7. We saw both these voicings in last week's episode, right? Again, I focused on the lowest 4 strings, even if they're muted. D7, G6, with the bass under my thumb. E7, same as D7, 2 frets higher. A7. Very easy. Now if you want to spice it up a little, you could maybe play A minor 7, D7, G. Now you could play B minor 7, E7, same as A minor 7, D7 in the second and third bar, just 2 frets higher. And you could play E minor 7, A7 and just play a regular 2-5-1. So then you would get B minor 7, E7, E minor 7, A7. And of course for the E minor 7, A7 you could then also play the Django 2-5. So then you would get 2-5, 1. B minor 7, E7. Also sounds great. So now you can vary which voicings you are using. Now the third A, I made another variation again. I do D6 for 1.5 bar, D diminished to G6 without the root, so it's more like E minor 7, A7. So this progression from D diminished to G6 is very pretty. You could play it like this with 4 fingers, both chords, or you could switch to the G6 just like this. A7. Now I did this 2-5. E minor 7, E flat 7 sharp 9. And we could keep that for a whole bar if you want. We could just do E minor 7. That's also very nice. Or in this chart I did E minor 7, E flat 7 sharp 9, A7, D. Now why does E flat 7 sharp 9 work? That's because E flat 7 is the tritone substitute for A7. There's just 2 chords that you can switch between because they're essentially the same thing. So, and then again the turnaround G6, A7. So the third A is gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I'm gonna play the whole thing for you. I'm gonna play 2 choruses. The first chorus I'm gonna play exactly what's here. The second chorus I might make some variations, some combinations of things. For instance, I could play. So I play G6, G sharp 6, A6, E flat 7 sharp 9, right? And I'm gonna play some embellishments, not rhythmically, but I could shift the chords around like I discussed in the second video that is linked in the comments. So the first video linked in the comments is just the basic technique of gypsy jazz rhythm. And the second link is pointing to a video in which I show some more advanced techniques and also some things that you shouldn't be doing when you play rhythm. So let's do it. There you go, and I can tell you it's a lot of fun to improvise with the different possibilities and find different ways to play those 2-5-1s. Now, if you join my Patreon at the $10 level, you get access to this backing track, and the reason why that's very useful is because it's 12 choruses of only a bass in 2 at 182 BPM, and that doesn't change. So because you're only getting 2 notes per bar and you're playing 4 notes, you have to be very solid to be in sync with the bass. So that's excellent practice to become a solid rhythm player. That's why it's called a rhythm workout. Don't forget the previous episode about all of me. Don't forget to check the tutorials about how to play gypsy jazz rhythm. And I will see you all in next week's episode for another Christiaan's rhythm workout. Bye!